What's up, Vikings fans? Welcome into Vikings Now. I am your host, Patrick Siepman. And before we get into our quarterback 2 discussion, winners from last night, losers from last night, I want you guys to go down and subscribe. It's the best way to grow this Vikings community. And I put the goal at 6K subs before week 1. Before we take on the Green Bay Packers, let's get to 6K because this is the best way. You guys will get more videos and potentially some watch parties coming soon. But let's get into the video. Coming up on the show today, like I said earlier, we're going to be talking about the quarterback 2 position for the Minnesota Vikings and why I think a fan favorite could possibly be returning to our Minnesota Vikings. I got some winners from last night. Obviously, it was a pretty brutal game, pretty uneventful, but I also have some losers from last night, and it was a hell of a game, and there's a lot to talk about and a lot to break down. But first, I want to start off with Kellen Mond. Kellen Mond, and here is mainly the main reason why I think the Vikings could bring in another quarterback. Kellen Mond was inconsistent. He was just up and down all night. The first drive of the game on the 3rd and 6, he had a very solid rollout. He was evading defenders. He was evading edge rushers, and he completed a sweet 3rd down throw on the run. And then literally 2 plays later, he had a brutal interception. And now I have 5 reasons on why I think the Vikings should bring in a quarterback. First off, like I just said, Kellen Mond, he's way too inconsistent. And then Sean Mannion, he's vanilla ice cream. We know what we have with Sean Mannion. He's plain as can be. And then last year, the Week 17 game, when Sean Mannion did have to step up, Kirk went down with COVID. The Vikings were still in the playoff race in Green Bay. We could barely move the football. I just think the Sean Mannion era, it has to be over. And number 4, I just don't trust even Kellen Mond if he had to step in and play a big-time game. I have no faith in him. So that's why Teddy Bridgewater. Bring back Teddy. I know this hasn't been a rumor that's been floating around, but if you guys have been paying attention to the Miami Dolphins, Teddy Bridgewater may not be the quarterback 2 there anymore. Skylar Thompson, their 7th-round draft pick, he's been playing out of his mind. And I do think Teddy is a guy, unlike Sean Mannion, unlike Kellen Mond, he can step in and win you games. If worse comes to worse, Kirk Cousins, we all know he is unvaccinated. If he would get COVID again during the season and Kellen Mond or Sean Mannion would have to step in, the Vikings would be 10-point dogs depending on who they're playing. If it's Teddy Bridgewater, I think we would still have a chance in that game. But I want to ask you guys this. Would you want the Vikings to trade for Teddy? Would you want to see Teddy back in the purple and gold? Type Y for yes, N for no down below. Right now, I'm leaning yes. I would love to see Teddy come back and play for the Minnesota Vikings. Just way too inconsistent play from Mond. And then, like I said, Sean Mannion is vanilla ice cream. My first winner from last night was T.Y. McGill. And this may be a kind of an unknown name for Vikings fans. T.Y. McGill, he's sort of a journeyman in the NFL. He's playing on 8 different teams. But if you look at what he did last night, he had 1.5 sacks, 5 tackles, and 4 quarterback hits. And if you're looking at the front 7, he was the main Vikings player that stood out to me. I thought he was fantastic. And I think if you're looking at the Vikings depth chart, he has a really solid chance to make this team. I think this 3-4 defense has kind of sparked some new life in him. And Armand Watts, he's been a kind of a long-tenured Viking, and more under the Zimmer era. Listen, if the new regime with Ed Donatel and Mike Pettin coming in, if they see something in T.Y. McGill that they like more than Armand Watts, I think he's not a long shot to make this team. Going into this week, I would have definitely said if T.Y. McGill, I would have said no to him making this team. Now, I'm leaning towards yes. Now, my second winner from last night, fan favorite, Akayleb Evans, 4th rounder out of Missouri. I love this guy. Akayleb Evans, he's been embracing Minnesota ever since he was drafted. He dyed his hair purple, and he was a monster in the run game yesterday. For a corner, he had 9 tackles. He led the Vikings in tackles yesterday, and he also had that sweet forced fumble. And when I look at Akayleb Evans and when I was just watching him play his college highlights, he's a physical player. He likes getting downhill. He's not going to shy away from any type of action at the line of scrimmage. And this Vikings depth chart, yes, he is buried in there a little bit. But if you are looking at Andrew Booth Jr., he had an injury yesterday. This could leave the door open for Akayleb Evans to jump him. And I do think if you're looking at the Vikings depth chart, Akayleb Evans, listen, he's a physical dude. He's tenacious. He gets after it. And then Andrew Booth, I think he's the same way. They're both rookies. Booth was drafted in the second round out of Clemson. I do think Booth, he is still the number one guy to kind of get that CB3 spot after Cameron Dantzler and after Patrick Peterson. But hey, I would not be shocked at all if Akayleb Evans would be able to jump Booth on this depth chart. I don't know if I would start Akayleb Evans over Andrew Booth in week 1. I think Akayleb Evans is more raw and Andrew Booth is more kind of game ready right now. But hey, I am definitely excited to see Akayleb Evans play this year. And if you guys are too, if you are excited to see Akayleb Evans play this year, go down there and smash that like button. Show him some support. He's embraced Minnesota. He's all over Twitter talking about the Vikings, talking about Minnesota. He may even come across this video. So you guys want to show him some support. Let's crush the like goal on this video. Let's get to 200 likes. Let's blow the like goal out of the water. And now I have my third winner from the 49ers game, Brian Asamoah. This dude is absolutely electric. I love the way he plays football. He's a downhill linebacker. And if you're looking the way he plays, he just brings energy. He plays violent. After every single play, whether it was just a routine tackle, I swear to God, he was getting up and he was screaming in the offensive player's face. And the number one thing that jumps out to me, he is extremely fast for the linebacker position. At Oklahoma, he was the same way, flying all over the field. But when you're able to see the speed that he had in college translate to the NFL, it excites me, man. And you can tell he is raw. He does have to kind of shore up a couple things in his game. I saw him over pursuing a couple runs last night, but his talent level is through the roof. Now, let's get into some losers from last night. Mentioned him earlier. Number one, off the top, Kellen Mond. He just didn't play good yesterday. I kind of mentioned his game earlier. He was inconsistent. I mean, he was 10 of 20, only around 82 yards and 2 interceptions yesterday. Personally, Kellen Mond, I think he's going to be on the way out soon. I just don't think that the Vikings' new management has that much faith in Kellen Mond to be the quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings if Kirk Cousins were have to go down in a game. That's why I am all in on the Vikings going out and getting a guy like Teddy Bridgewater. I really think that if you have Kellen Mond and Sean Mannion as your backup quarterbacks, I just don't think it's a good idea. I just don't think Kellen Mond is a good quarterback 2 option. And I just personally, if I had to go towards Kellen Mond, Teddy Bridgewater just in one game next year, it's going to be Teddy no matter what. Now another loser I have, DJ Wonnum. It hurts me to say, man. Coming out of the draft a couple years ago, I was comparing DJ Wonnum to Danielle Hunter, a very elite edge rusher that the Vikings have in the NFL. But the problem with DJ Wonnum, he had 8 sacks last year. For a second-year player, that was fantastic. But he struggled all preseason. So far in both games, he's accumulated 0 sacks and only 1 pressure. And my eye test when I'm watching him play, he only uses the bull rush move. I never see him try to put a swim move on a defender or try to get a rip move going towards a quarterback. And PFF rated DJ Wonnum very poorly last season, which to me, for a guy who has 8 sacks, he was rated one of the worst edges in the NFL. It kind of rose a question mark for me. So this preseason, I was really watching him game and really narrowing in on him. He just doesn't have that many moves. Everything is a bull rush to him. Everything is just straight line. I'm going to try to outman you. And yes, that can work for a couple of years in the NFL. But then once teams start picking up on you, you're going to need to have an arsenal of moves. But my biggest loser and my last loser were the fans last night. There were 27 inactives on the Minnesota Vikings. And there were 27 inactives on the San Francisco 49ers, combining for 54. If we look at who didn't play yesterday, Cameron Dantzler, Dalvin Cook, Peterson. Then you got obviously the big dogs, Kirk Cousins, KJ Osborne, Jefferson, Thielen, Harrison Smith, Cam Bynum. But the thing that shocked me the most is that even guys like Garrett Bradbury, Zadarius Smith, Jordan Hicks, Chris Reed, kind of guys that, yes, they are starters on this team, but it's not like they are locked in starters. The one that really bothered me was Bradbury not getting out there playing last night. I understand they had the joint practices with the Niners all week, and he was getting really good reps, but Bradbury, he's been inconsistent throughout his NFL career. I don't think he deserves the nod to kind of say, hey, you're the full-time starter, you're not playing. I would have just put him out there no matter what. And then, honestly, the fans were a huge loser because the Vikings, they put up 7 points yesterday. Drops all over the field. I mean, Zach Davidson, I think he dropped 2 third down catches, and then he had the one on first down that should have been a 40-yard gain, and he literally just dropped it. Sean Mannion, one of his better throws of the night, put it right in the breadbasket, and it just went through his hands on top of just clumsy offensive penalties pre-snap. That's why you're going to get 7 points. It was a sloppy game overall from the Vikings offensively, and that's why I cannot wait for week 1. We got the Packers week 1, and if you guys are ready to beat the Packers, hit that sub button because I am so excited. I'm sick of watching the 3rd and 4th string guys, even though I love seeing these guys battle their ass off for roster spots. I can't wait to see Jefferson. I can't wait to see Kirk Cousins. So if you guys are ready to beat the Packers, not just play the Packers, beat the Packers, hit that sub button, and I'll see you guys next time. Skol Vikes.